this is Julie with Beadaholique, and in this video I want to teach you how to make the Kumihimo Wrap Bracelet Kit, which is an exclusive kit from Beadaholique.com. There's two different styles. There is the striped version and then the multicolored. You can see they come in a variety of colors. Now the striped version and the multicolored use the exact same technique, which I'm going to teach you here. Just with the stripe, you pay more attention to where you place your threads on the disc. So when you purchase a kit from Beadaholique.com, we provide you with all the supplies you need to make the project. In this case, you're going to get some S-Lon cord. You get a whole spool of it. 2 full tubes of Miyuki seed beads. Now these are size 10-0. A clasp. We're going to be using a sleek magnetic tube clasp with an insert that you can put your kumi braid into, so it's got a nice well. And then some E6000 glue to glue your braid into that well. Now with the Kumi kits, we also give you the disc as well as 8 bobbins. So we really do try to give you everything you need to make these projects. Now in terms of the other supplies you're going to need, most of them are just household items. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a little scrap of paper or Post-it note, some type of applicator for your glue, some tape, and then a Kumihimo weight. Now this is an actual kumi weight, and it's going to help with your thread tension and your braiding. If you don't have one of these at home, you can make one using a binder clip and a little bag of pennies or some other little heavy weight to attach to the binder clip. So let me show you how to make this kit. Kumihimo is a really fun technique. It's actually quite addictive, I find. So I'm going to clear these away. And actually, real quick, I do want to show you how this looks just on, because it's a really pretty design. It is a triple wrap bracelet, and that's how it looks when you wear it. So let's go ahead and make one. We're going to begin by cutting 8 lengths of our cord, and they need to be 5 feet long each. So I have a ruler here. So they're going to be 5 feet, and 5 feet each will equal an approximately 22-inch beaded braid. So you'll have a bit extra because you always want a little bit extra. You don't want to have a situation where you run out of your cord. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there's 5 feet, and you need 8 of these. So what I like to do is I just then use my first cut piece as a measuring tool for all the remainders. So line up the ends. And snip. We finished cutting our cords, so we have 8 equal lengths, and this is how much of the actual spool that is left. So you can use this for another project. There's quite a bit left over. So it's time to go ahead and put the beads onto our cord and wind them onto our bobbins. So the way the bobbins work is you pop them open by pressing in their center, and then they open up, and you're going to wind your cord and beads into the center and then pop it closed. Now whenever I'm working with a thinner cord like S-Lon as opposed to satin rat tail, which is much thicker, and especially when I'm going to be using beads, I like to tape the end of my cord into the middle of the bobbin just to hold it in place. So I'm going to do that right now. Just a little piece of tape, put on the end, pop open the bobbin, and just secure it in place. Just a little added measure of security that will help later. And you know, it doesn't always pull out with your beads, but just when it does, it's very frustrating. So I like to do that to start with. Now you have 2 tubes of beads, and we need to string these onto the 8 cords. So 4 cords with this pretty bronze color and 4 cords with the green. I'm going to start with the bronze. And you want approximately equal amount of beads on every cord. Now a really easy way to do this, because we're not going to count all these beads, I like to make a pile like so and eyeball the halfway mark and divide it into 2 piles. And those look pretty even. And then I like to take those and divide them in half as well. And that looks pretty good. This guy here looks like he has a few more than he needs. Just gonna scoot that over. That looks good to me. So I've got my 4 piles. Now what's nice is because these are Miyuki beads and they're a size 10-0, their holes are quite large, so we don't need a needle to be placed onto our cord. So we're just gonna actually, and it might be easier to see this on my hand because I know this is a light colored cord on this white cloth, but I'm just gonna be picking up the beads like so. And then scoot them down, and I'm going to do this whole pile onto this one strand. If you have a big eye needle at home, you can definitely use that for this project as well, but not needed. You can see our strand of beads, and it's actually quite long, which is nice because we are going to be making a triple wrap bracelet. So what you want to do is slide most of your beads down towards the base of your bobbin. And you can start winding your thread on your bobbin and then wind it with the beads as well. But you do want to leave a good 4 or 5 inches of beads outside of the bobbin as well, and then also a bit of the actual cord itself that doesn't have beads on it. So then snap your bobbin shut, and you can see that the bobbin itself is preventing the cord from continuing to slide. If you do find that your cord slides, you can put a little extra piece of tape right here, which we'll see if we want to do that later in the project. But this is what we've got. And you'll want to do all 8 bobbins in the same way. So 4 with the pretty bronze bead, and then 4 with the green beads. And then we'll be ready to line up the threads on our disc and start our braiding. Once you have all your bobbins loaded with beads and thread, you're going to take the ends and line them up. So all 8 of them. And we're going to tie an overhand knot with the ends. So just gathering them all together and tie an overhand knot. And you want to tie it fairly close to the ends, maybe an inch or so away from the end. Take this knot, thread it through the middle of your Kumihimo disc, and at this point is when the Kumihimo weight comes into play. We're going to actually just go ahead, clip the weight, or if you're using a binder clip, onto the knot. Now we're going to line up our threads on the disc. So you'll notice the disc has a series of numbers from 1 all the way around to 32, and it's got these little notches in the disc, and it's got 4 dots. So when you're holding a Kumihimo disc, you want the 32 to be up top and the 16 closest to you. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a striped pattern. So we want matching colors at the 32 and 16, and then matching colors at the 8 and the 24. And that's going to create the stripe. Now, if you're doing one of just the multicolor designs like this, it's not going to matter which strands are by which number. So it's only if you're doing the stripe. So here we've got a green one. So I'm going to put this to the left of the 32. And then we have another green one, so this is going to go to the right of the 32. Then we have, let's see, here's another green one. So we want this one down by the 16. And now we got a pretty bronze color one coming up. We're going to put that over by the 8. Let's see. You kind of just work these out as you go. So here's another pretty bronze. It's going to go over to the other side of the 8. Here's our last green. It's going to go down to the other side of the 16. And then the 2 remaining bronzes are over by the 24. And you'll notice that there are no beads on the top here. The beads are just hanging below. So at this point, pull your threads so that the knot with the Kumihimo weight is in the center. And then you'll see what we have here. We have all of our bobbins hanging below. Now these are a little bit long, a couple of them, so I'm just going to wind them up a little bit. Any of the really long ones. So now we're ready to start braiding. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to begin by pulling the cord out of the notch to the left side of the 16 and pulling it up top to the left of the 31. So you have the 3 threads together up here. And now we're going to go to the right side. So the thread that's to the right of the 32, we're going to pull down to the right of the 15. So left up, right down, and then rotate counterclockwise. 1 rotation till you end up with your next set of 2 threads. So on here, we're going to pull the left thread out of that notch to the left of the 24 and pull it up to the left of the 7. And then we'll go to the right side and pull the right one that's to the right of the 8 down to the right of the 23. Rotate again counterclockwise. So left up to the left and right down to the right and rotate. And what you're going to end up doing is you're going to stop really paying attention to these numbers. You're just going to remember that you take the left one and go up to the left. So left of your cords are up top, and the right one down to the right and rotate. If you ever need to pause, pull the left one up and leave it like so. You can now put it down, walk away for an hour, a day, a week, whatever it may be. And when you come back and you look at your disc, you'll always know that where the 3 threads are up top, that's where you left off, and you need to pull that right one down and then rotate and continue as normal. So right now we are actually creating the braid and we're doing it without beads. So this is a non-beaded standard 8 warp Kumihimo braid. So left up, right down. And you want to do this for about 3/4 of an inch of braiding without beads. And then at that point, we're going to add beads. But it's really important to have that non-braided portion because that's what we're going to put into our clasp. So left up, right down, rotate. You just need to remember that. Left up, right down, rotate. And it becomes very zen-like. It's a really peaceful process. So just keep braiding until you have that 3/4 of an inch without any beads. I'm going to say we're ready to start adding our beads. So since I've paused, my 3 strands are up top. I want to show you what we have so far. This is our braid. And you can see it's a really tight braid, and that's really because this kumi weight is helping with the tension of the threads. So now we want to add beads. So I'm going to take the right thread and pull it down, and then on the next sequence I'm going to start with beads. When you want to add a bead, there's no change in the actual technique. The difference is you take a bead from your length of beads, you slide one up, and you let it slide down into the well, and you catch it under the nearest thread bridge, just like so. And then you just continue pulling your left thread up to the original slot you were going to put it in anyways if you had not added a bead. So same thing with the next thread. We're just going to slide one bead down, let it fall into that well, make sure it catches under the nearest thread, and you pull that right thread to its original destination. And then rotate. And you just keep repeating this. So same thing, we're going to take that one bead, let it slide down, and you really do oftentimes need to guide it under that thread bridge. So left up to left, so you pulled it to where it should be from the start. Slide down another bead. Rotate. And we keep doing this, and you're going to want to be doing this until you've braided for this particular project about 22.5 inches of beaded kumihimo, so not including the non-beaded portion. And that's going to give you a nice length for a triple wrap bracelet. I'm going to do this a little bit on camera because I want you to be able to see the spiral start to materialize, so I'm going to probably do a good 1/2 inch or so. And the rest I'll do off camera because it does take a little bit of time. It's really fun and enjoyable. It's something you can do as you're just relaxing or you're talking with friends, which is a really nice aspect of kumihimo. But I am just slipping that bead under, making sure it catches, and then placing my thread where it should go. So you do want to keep your threads nice and tight. That's going to help it so that it's one, an even braid, but also help you with the catching of the bead under the thread bridge. Okay, I'm going to pause on this one and see what we've got. So there you can see our stripe starting to show, and the beadwork is coming along nicely. If you had missed a bead where it didn't catch under the thread bridge, you'd probably see a little hole where the bead should be. So just do make sure that your beads catch. And then the goal is to have a nice long length of spiral beadwork. So I'm going to do this off camera, and then I'll come back when I have just a few more beads to place, and then I'll show you how to do the rest of the non-beaded portion at the other end and how to attach the clasp, and then your bracelet will be finished. All right, I've pretty much finished the beaded portion of my bracelet. I want to show you a couple quick things. So the way to tell how long you want this to be is you can just take your length of beadwork and wrap it around your wrist a couple times and get a good tension and see how long you want it to be. Now I braided about 22.5 inches of beaded kumihimo, which is going to equal a little over a 7-inch triple wrap bracelet. But you can also see I do still have a lot of beads left, so I could definitely make it longer as well. But since I'm happy with how long I have it, I'm going to take this last little bead, slip it under that thread bridge, carry it to where it needs to go, rotate it, and now I need to create another non-beaded braid portion, which is going to allow me to attach my clasp. So I'm not going to worry about these beads here. I'm just going to let them be, but I'm going to continue doing the braiding just the way I had started without beads. So even though those beads are still there, I'm just not paying any attention to them. I'm not slipping them down. I'm just braiding as normal without beads. And I'm going to create about a 3/4 inch length without beads. Now that we've finished our braiding, we need to remove all the strands from our disc, and we need to finish our cord ends and attach our clasp. Now the easiest way I find to do this is to take your weight, whether it's a homemade one or the one that's specifically for kumihimo braiding. You're going to take it off your tail, and then you're going to grab the top part of your braid and place your clip or your weight right there. And that's going to secure it from unraveling when you do this. And we're going to pull off all our strands. And we're going to just cut them at this point. So those can be set aside and used for another project, the bobbins. And here is our bracelet in progress, and now we need to attach the magnetic clasp. A quick tip, whenever you're using magnetic clasp, always separate it to glue in place, because if you were to glue it attached like this, and you put glue in here, whoops, you put glue in here and you put glue in there, the glue could potentially seep through and actually glue your clasp shut. So always separate it out. And for this, we're going to need a little scrap piece of paper, some type of applicator, our glue, and we're going to need 2 more lengths of our cord, about 12 inches long each. And because this is a little bit of a lighter cord, I'm going to pull over a little darker swatch of fabric here because I want you to be able to really see what I'm doing. So we've got our clasp half and we've got our strand. Now you'll notice that the diameter of the well of the clasp is actually quite a bit thicker than the diameter of our non-beaded braid. And we want to bulk that up so that when we glue it in place, it really has something to grab onto. To bulk it up, one really easy way to go about this is to take an extra strand of your cord and tie it around that braid. So you can tie a couple knots like so. We're just trying to bulk up that area. So then you can go around it and under it. You want to be pretty close up to the beaded portion. You could wrap it around a few times. You want to pull pretty tight. Okay, so this is what we have now. You can see that we've added some extra width right there. Okay, so then you're going to take your glue. If it's an unopened bottle, the way to open it is there's a little pointed object here on the inside of the cap. You just turn it upside down. Press is going to break through that seal. The glue is going to come out the top. You're going to put the glue on your Post-it and replace the cap. Okay, and then for this, we're going to cut off our little extra thread here. And we're also going to cut through our braid and below the area that we've knotted. And actually I can take off the weight at this time. Take your glue, put it on the inside of your clasp and be pretty generous because you not only want to get the sides, but you do want to get the base a little bit too. And you want to get around all the sides because you really do want to make sure that you're not just gluing to that extra knotted area, but you're also gluing to the braid. So take your braid end. Let me do it over this darker fabric so you can see a little bit better. And I find if you just twist, it goes in very easily and just keep pushing. And if a few beads go in, great. Looks really nice and finished. So now we're going to go do the exact same thing on the other side. Okay, we've bulked that up nicely. So now we're going to trim it. And we need more glue. And trim our braid. And do just kind of eyeball it. Make sure you're not trimming it too long here. Whoops, it is magnetic. Again, be really quite generous with that glue in there. It is a very strong glue, but you do want to make sure it touches as much as it can. There we go. And we're going to put this in here, and again, we're going to twist it. Just tuck it in and twist. And there we go. And we have completed our bracelet. And I'm going to let that dry overnight before I wear it. But just to show you again a finished piece, I'll put it on my wrist. And the magnetic clasp is really easy to work with, but that is what it looks like done. Again, this is the Kumihimo Wrap Bracelet Kit, which is an exclusive kit from Beadaholique.com.